Maguire, you should hang your heads in shame. Representing Man United and letting people run past you. Get close to people.
Worry for United. I worry. I don't see any good business here. Harry Maguire, 80 million is ridiculous. It's ridiculous at the highest level.
Is he a good player?
Oh my God. Harry Maguire. Get rid of Harry Maguire!
He was supposed to be Manchester United's defensive rock, the calm, commanding leader to bring back the glory days at Old Trafford, England's World Cup hero, Leicester's Iron Man, the world's most expensive defender.
Harry Maguire has now signed for Manchester United, what is a world record fee for a defender.
When Harry Maguire arrived for £80 million, he wasn't just joining Manchester United, he was expected to save them.
He signed Harry Maguire for £80 million. He's a couple of months into his Manchester United career. What is his influence on the pitch? Obviously, he had a clean sheet last weekend against Leicester, but more in terms of off the pitch, has he got those leadership qualities that will mean he could become a Manchester United captain?
He does, definitely.
But under the bright lights, the story changed. Every mistake went viral. Every slip became a meme. The captain's armband became a curse. Mocked by rival fans, doubted by pundits, even booed by his own.
Harry Maguire, I genuinely think pound for pound, he's one of the worst signings United have made.
Maguire became the face of United's chaos. Yet through it all, he never disappeared. He stayed, he fought, he rebuilt himself from the ashes of ridicule. And when his moment finally came, a towering header at Anfield silenced the same world that laughed at him.
Like a massive turnaround in fortunes for Harry Maguire as well. For someone like Harry to turn it around, how he's shown the resilience, the character to come back to where he is, man. To be doing what he's doing, I have to say, you have to hold your hands up and tip your hat to him, man, because that's a strength of character.
From record signing to national scapegoat to unexpected hero, this is the story of how Harry Maguire, the most hated defender in world football, is proving his doubters wrong. Long before the memes, the headlines, or the pressure of Old Trafford, there was a boy from Mosborough, a quiet village on the edge of Sheffield, where football wasn't a dream, it was a routine. Jacob Harry Maguire grew up as the middle child of a footballing family, playing on muddy pitches with his brothers Joe and Lawrence, both of whom would also go on to play professionally. At the Immaculate Conception Catholic Primary School and later St. Mary's High in Chesterfield, he was the same boy everyone remembered, tall, polite, grounded, and frighteningly focused. From the age of 7, he joined Sheffield United's academy, not as a defender, but as a central midfielder, a deep-lying controller who saw the game in slow motion. Coaches used to say he read danger like an adult even as a boy. By the time he was 16, Maguire's intelligence and composure stood out so much that the academy staff made a pivotal decision. They moved him into defense, believing his ability to step out with the ball and his aerial dominance would make him unstoppable in senior football. They were right. In April 2011, Sheffield United were fighting relegation from the championship when the teenager was thrown into the fire against Cardiff City. He didn't just survive, he was named man of the match. A few months later, he'd made 5 senior appearances, and though the Blades dropped into League One, Maguire had just announced himself as the club's brightest light in years. Over the next 3 seasons, he became their heartbeat. Week after week, he stood like a wall in defense, scored goals from set pieces, and led like a player twice his age. He was named Sheffield United's Player of the Year 3 times in a row, earned consecutive spots in the PFA Team of the Year, and reached 100 senior appearances before his 20th birthday. Fans called him Slabhead affectionately, a nickname born not from ridicule, but respect for his unstoppable heading ability. By 2014, bigger clubs had noticed, and Hull City came forward with an offer of £2.5 million. For Sheffield, it was a tough goodbye. For Maguire, it was the next step in a climb that felt inevitable. When Hull were relegated to the championship, he returned with fire. Under Mike Phelan, he established himself as a first-team regular, even captaining the side and scoring crucial goals. Though Hull would suffer another relegation, Maguire's reputation soared. Voted both players and fans Player of the Year in 2017. That summer, Leicester City came calling. It was a £12 million move. Small change by modern standards, but life-changing for Maguire. Under Craig Shakespeare and later Claude Puel, he played with consistency few defenders in the league could match. During the 2017-18 Premier League season, he didn't miss a single minute, the only outfield player in England's top flight to achieve that feat. He won Leicester's Player of the Season award and earned his first England call-up, soon finding himself in Gareth Southgate's squad for the 2018 World Cup in Russia. There, in Russia, the boy from Mosborough became a national hero.
Harry Maguire, your defense is terrifying. Harry Maguire.
Maguire, your defence is terrifying.
His fearless defending, powerful runs from the back, and iconic headed goal against Sweden in the quarterfinals turned him into a cult figure. England reached their first World Cup semi-final in 28 years, and Maguire was at the heart of it, the towering symbol of a new era of belief. By the time he returned to Leicester, he wasn't just a Premier League centre back anymore. He was World Cup Harry, one of the most admired defenders in the country. So when Manchester United came knocking in the summer of 2019, it felt like destiny. The price tag, £80 million, made him the most expensive defender in football history. For Maguire, it wasn't about the number. For the club, it was a statement. They were paying for leadership, reliability, and English steel. Few could have predicted that this record-breaking move, meant to crown his rise, would instead become the beginning of the storm that would define his career. When Manchester United announced the signing of Harry Maguire in August 2019, the news broke like a storm.
Massive breaking news. We've been waiting for this for about 5 weeks, and I can tell you that Harry Maguire has now signed for Manchester United.
£80 million, more than Virgil van Dijk, more than any defender in football history. It wasn't just a transfer, it was a statement of intent. United, desperate to rebuild after years of inconsistency, were banking on Maguire to become the leader who would steady their backline and restore pride to a fractured dressing room. Fans welcomed him with hope and curiosity. Journalists filled columns with comparisons to the legends before him: Nemanja Vidic, Rio Ferdinand, Steve Bruce, and the pressure began before he even kicked a ball. His debut came on a bright Sunday afternoon at Old Trafford against Chelsea, a fixture soaked in rivalry and expectation. The final score read 4-0 to United, and Maguire was colossal. He intercepted everything, bullied Chelsea's attack, and left the pitch as man of the match. For a moment, it felt like the fee had already been justified. There was calm in United's defense again, something that had been missing for years. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, then manager, spoke of Maguire's presence and influence as if he'd been there for years.
Harry has been excellent, and he's been, as you say, it's almost unheard of the minutes he's played without missing out.
Just 5 months later, on January 17th, 2020, Solskjaer made a bold decision that would shape Maguire's legacy. He handed him the captain's armband, replacing Ashley Young.
Harry has been wearing the captain's armband, and he will keep wearing it. He's come in and been a leader in the group. I've been impressed by his leadership skills.
It was the fastest rise to captaincy in modern United history. 6 months after arriving, he was now leading one of the biggest clubs in the world. The symbolism was powerful. Maguire wasn't just a signing. He was the new face of Manchester United's rebuild. He led by example, not by noise. Calm, focused, and demanding. That same season, he played every single minute of all 38 Premier League games, the first United outfield player to do so since 1995. His leadership on and off the pitch helped the club secure third place and qualification for the Champions League. There were key moments that defined his early days. His first goal for United, a thunderous strike in a 6-0 FA Cup win over Tranmere Rovers, another header at Stamford Bridge against Chelsea, and the extra time winner against Norwich in the FA Cup quarterfinals. He wasn't spectacular, but he was consistent, a quality United had been craving. And then came the pandemic, empty stadiums, the silence of football without fans, and a sense of isolation that affected players in ways most would never understand. For Maguire, who had carried the weight of expectations for club and country, the mental strain grew heavier. Still, he played through it all. Through fatigue, criticism, and a relentless schedule, he never missed a match. But even as he worked in silence, the noise outside kept growing. Social media became a courtroom of opinion. Absolutely can't stand him, one fan wrote on Twitter. Atrocious mentality, and the fact that he's our captain sums up the downfall of Manchester United. The sooner we sell him, the better. It was harsh, raw, and personal. The kind of comment that stings more than any tackle, and it wasn't alone. Thousands echoed it, each post amplifying the pressure that already felt suffocating. By the start of the 2020-21 season, he seemed indestructible, until the summer of 2020, when an incident in Greece changed the tone of his career. On a family trip to Mykonos, Maguire was arrested following an altercation with police officers, later convicted in absentia of assault and attempted murder bribery, and given a suspended jail sentence. His legal team appealed immediately, and the verdict remains contested to this day. But in the court of public opinion, the damage was done. The English press feasted on it. Rival fans had new ammunition. Overnight, the captain of Manchester United became a tabloid villain.
They were found guilty on all charges, and however, what what we don't like, if I might say so, is that we found their behavior to have been totally unsportsmanlike, because instead of asking for an apology, until today, no apology was received.
When he returned to the pitch, the noise was deafening. Some journalists questioned his suitability as captain. Every touch, every tackle, every mistake was dissected. He responded the only way he knew how, by playing. On October 17th, 2020, against Newcastle United, he silenced critics briefly with a towering header, leading United to a 4-1 win. Weeks later, he played in United's record 9-0 victory against Southampton, equaling a Premier League record. Even amid personal turmoil, he kept going. But leadership at Manchester United is unlike anywhere else. Every captain inherits the ghosts of glory, and every stumble is magnified tenfold. As the 2020-21 season wore on, cracks began to show. Fatigue set in, errors crept in, and confidence began to waver. When Maguire suffered an ankle injury in May 2021, missing the Europa League final against Villarreal, United lost on penalties. And for the first time since he'd arrived, the question was asked aloud: was Harry Maguire truly built to carry this club? The answer, as it turned out, would take years to unfold. What had started as a dream, record signing captain, ever-present leader, was slowly turning into something darker. The badge that once represented pride now carried weight, and the armband that had symbolized trust was beginning to feel like a chain, because what was waiting ahead wasn't glory, but a storm unlike any he had faced before. The second season begins with the armband still tied around his sleeve and the unspoken pact that he will carry the weight of a club still searching for itself. And in those early autumn weeks, he tries to make the noise disappear the only way he knows how: by playing through it, by meeting the ball early, by stepping into midfield to pass through pressure, by winning the first header so the second never arrives. Yet the game at this level is not only grass and leather, but narrative and glare and timing. And his timing could not have been worse, because after the summer in Greece, the headlines start walking into the stadium with him. They sit in the front row, they follow every touch, and when he scores with a determined header at Newcastle, it buys him a pocket of quiet, a small circle of space in which he can breathe again. But the quiet never lasts at Manchester United, not for a captain, not for a record signing. The moment the cheers fade, the commentary returns, sharper than ever. Harry Maguire is the worst player in the Premier League by some distance. 4 relegations, 0 trophies, and he consistently makes horrendous mistakes. How on earth did Manchester United pay 80 million euros for him? It's not analysis, it's anger, raw and unforgiving, and yet it captures a sentiment spreading through fan bases across the country. The silence of pandemic football only amplifies that noise inside people's heads as they watch him marshal a back line in empty cathedrals built for sound, where one misplaced step looks like a crisis, one heavy touch becomes an indictment, and a routine pass sliced out of play feels like the unraveling of a grand plan. Still, he answers with minutes, more minutes than anyone, playing and playing until the numbers themselves become a kind of defiance. Every league minute, every pressure moment, the sort of reliability managers pray for even when form flickers in and out. There are days that hint at calm, that 9-0 against Southampton where the team runs riot and he looks every inch the authoritative center back they paid for. And then there are nights like the loss to his former club Sheffield United when a whole stadium's nervous system jolts and the conversation turns darker. You see him fronting up in interviews, eyes steady, shoulders squared, taking responsibility in that blunt northern way that neither invites pity nor dodges blame, because he was raised to stand in the storm rather than seek shelter from it. But storms do not care for stoicism, and by spring the mileage catches up with him. The ankles that have carried him through 90 after 90 begin to complain, and just as the season's end approaches, just as the team is pushing for a European trophy to validate a year's graft, the injury arrives at precisely the wrong moment. The Europa League final drifting out of reach for him as he watches in a suit from the sideline. The game slides away on penalties while the camera keeps finding his face. A captain forced to be a spectator, and if football is a test of character, then this is the paper no one wants to sit, to lead without playing, to listen to the noise without any 90 minutes in which to answer back, to feel the armband constrict not because of its fabric, but because of the questions that come with it.
Captain of the club and doesn't go for the ball. Absolutely useless.
Are you the man to carry Manchester United? Can you still be the metronome of a back line when confidence, that delicate currency defenders trade in, keeps getting withdrawn in public? And in the quiet after Gdansk, he resolves to come back harder, to turn the volume down. the only way that works in this business, by making the next tackle first and the next header clean. Yet the truth of this chapter is simple and merciless. The first cracks have appeared, and with them the smell of blood in the water, and the sharks are starting to circle. The season begins with optimism painted over cracks that never really healed, and Harry Maguire walks back into the Manchester United dressing room carrying a burden that words can't quite measure. He has become almost overnight the face of a club split between nostalgia and chaos. The leader of a team still haunted by its past and still unsure of its present. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's smile hides tension, results fluctuate, and every defensive wobble seems to find its way to Maguire's name. It starts subtly, a missed clearance here, a heavy first touch there, and then the floodgates open. Against Leicester City in October, he returns from injury too soon, his rhythm gone, and the game turns into a nightmare. Dispossessed for one goal, caught out for another, watching his former club celebrate as pundits declare him disgraceful. Days later, Liverpool arrive at Old Trafford, and the match dissolves into humiliation. 5 goals conceded, the defense in disarray, the captain looking lost beneath the weight of it all. The camera lingers on his face after every goal, replay after replay, until the image becomes a meme before the final whistle even blows. What follows is a kind of public unraveling that few players ever experience. The criticism moves beyond performance into ridicule. Every match clip is slowed down, replayed, edited with clown music, and spread across the internet.
Hey, Maguire!
Fans of rival clubs chant his name as an insult. Even when he plays well, silence greets him. When he falters, the laughter roars. Journalists call for him to be dropped. Fans question his captaincy, and pundits dissect his body language frame by frame. In this era of social media judgment, he becomes an easy symbol, not just of United's struggles, but of everything wrong with modern football's expectations. Yet amid the noise, he keeps showing up. That's the part most people forget. He doesn't hide from cameras, doesn't skip interviews. After every loss, he faces the microphones, repeating the same mantra of responsibility and improvement. The voice is steady, but the eyes give away exhaustion. Behind the scenes, teammates talk about a captain who never complains, who tries to lift the dressing room even when his own form is in ruins. But the pressure keeps tightening. Fans boo his name during the England internationals, something almost unheard of for a player who had delivered at the World Cup and Euros.
Harry Maguire booed by England fans, absolutely shocking.
When he scores a goal for his country and cups his hands to his ears in muted defiance, it only fuels another week of outrage. Pundit Roy Keane doesn't hold back. He put his hands on his ears like he's shutting his critics up. It's embarrassing. He's been a disgrace the last few months for Manchester United. At home, the pressure turns darker. In April 2022, police sweep his Cheshire home after an anonymous bomb threat. A grim reminder of how public scrutiny can spill into personal danger. His family is shaken, and yet, days later, he trains as usual. No press release can quite capture what that does to a person. To be mocked, threatened, and still expected to play at the highest level in front of millions. By May, the inevitable happens. Solskjaer is gone. Ralph Rangnick arrives as interim manager, and United's season collapses entirely. 6th place, 57 goals conceded. The club's worst defensive record in over 40 years. Maguire, worn out and wounded, ends the campaign as both scapegoat and survivor. The chants continue, the memes multiply, and the once celebrated leader of England's backline becomes a symbol of decline. He later admits it was the toughest period of his career, a time when he questioned everything, his confidence, his leadership, even his love for the game. But he doesn't run. He never once asks to be benched, never requests to leave. Instead, he keeps turning it up, keeps facing the music, even when it feels like no one is listening anymore. And that quiet defiance, invisible to the noise, becomes the thread that will carry him through what comes next. A year when the criticism grows even louder, and even the captaincy itself is stripped from him. Because if 2021 to 22 was collapse and humiliation, what followed was something even more painful, being forgotten. By the summer of 2022, Manchester United was beginning yet another rebuild. A new manager, Erik ten Hag, arrived from Ajax with a reputation for discipline, structure, and tactical precision. For many, it was a clean slate, but for Harry Maguire, it was a test of survival. From the first training sessions, the tone was clear. Every player had to prove himself again, and reputations meant nothing. The first-choice center-back pairing quickly became Rafael Varane and Lisandro Martinez. One a World Cup winner, the other a fiery new arrival with sharp passing and aggression. Maguire found himself watching from the bench, the captain's armband still on paper his, but in reality slipping further from his grasp with every game he didn't start. The irony was brutal. The man who had once played every minute was now playing every few weeks. When he did feature, the atmosphere was already poisoned by anticipation, a collective intake of breath in the crowd every time the ball came near him, as if the next mistake was a certainty waiting to happen. Rival fans mocked him relentlessly, creating compilation videos of his errors set to mocking music. Even his name became an online joke. For any other player, it might have been a career-ending spiral. For Maguire, it was the slow erosion of identity. He was no longer Manchester United's captain in spirit, he was its lightning rod. Still, he held his head high. When asked about his form, he refused to lash out or make excuses. He spoke calmly about competition, about working hard, about fighting for his place. Those words began to sound mechanical after a while, but behind them was something more powerful, a kind of stubborn belief that professionalism still meant something. And when Manchester United won the EFL Cup in February 2023, beating Newcastle United 2-0 at Wembley, Maguire didn't play a major role on the pitch that day, but he still lifted the trophy alongside Bruno Fernandes. It was a gesture that looked small to outsiders, but meant everything inside the dressing room. It was dignity in a season that had tried to strip him of it. He would later recall that year as one of illness, injury, and lost rhythm. Whenever he built momentum, something stopped him. A strain, a fever, a manager's tactical shift. The rhythm that made him reliable had vanished, and yet he stayed. He rejected offers from abroad, turned down interest from mid-table clubs, where he could have played every week. When critics called him finished, he refused to leave the fight. To him, walking away would have been surrender. By June, the speculation was relentless. Headlines declared his time at Manchester United over. Former players said it was best for all parties if he moved on, and then came the moment that confirmed what everyone already suspected. On July 16th, 2023, after 4 years as captain, Maguire announced publicly that Erik ten Hag had informed him he would no longer wear the armband. It was clinical, emotionless, a manager's decision made in the name of hierarchy and performance. Bruno Fernandes was named the new captain. Maguire's statement, released quietly on social media, was pure professionalism. He thanked the fans, the manager, and his teammates, said he would always give everything for the badge, and ended it without bitterness. But between the lines, you could feel the sting. In truth, it was a mercy and a wound at once. The responsibility that had once defined him was gone, but so was the validation. Now he was just another player, a squad option on the fringes of a club he once led. Rumors of a transfer to West Ham United gained pace. The fee was agreed, the medical arranged, yet at the last moment he pulled the plug. "I want to stay and fight for my place," he told reporters. It wasn't arrogance, it was identity. After everything, leaving would have meant confirming what the world said about him. That decision, mocked by pundits at the time, would turn out to be the quiet hinge on which his redemption would swing, because the season ahead would not be kind, but it would finally reveal what the years of mockery had built inside him, a kind of unbreakable steel that no price tag, no meme, no manager's demotion could erase. And as the new campaign dawned, few noticed him on the team sheet, fewer still expected him to matter again. But Harry Maguire was not done. He was waiting patiently for the one thing that football always gives the brave: a second chance. It begins quietly, almost unnoticed. The summer of humiliation fades into the autumn of opportunity. Manchester United's defense, once rock solid, starts to creak under pressure. Injuries strike, form dips, and Erik ten Hag is suddenly forced to look toward the player everyone had written off. Harry Maguire, the man stripped of the armband and buried in the bench, is back on the team sheet. His return isn't marked by fireworks. It starts with effort. Excellent, consistent, invisible effort. The old composure begins to show in his passing. The aerial dominance returns in duels, and the body language that once looked broken now radiates defiance. He plays with a chip on his shoulder and a clarity born from humiliation. Every tackle is personal. Every clean sheet, a small victory against the noise. Then comes October 7th, 2023. Old Trafford against Brentford. United are losing again. The crowd restless. The pressure unbearable. Deep into stoppage time, Maguire surges forward, winning a header that drops perfectly for Scott McTominay to score. One goal, then another, both in added time. United snatch a 2-1 victory from the brink of disaster. As the stadium erupts, the cameras find Maguire, fists clenched, face tight, shouting not at the fans, but at the ghosts that had haunted him for 2 years. It's not a headline moment for the world, but for him, it's the first breath of oxygen after drowning. 17 days later, under the Champions League lights, he steps up again. Copenhagen at Old Trafford, a match United must win to stay alive in the group. It's tense, ugly, desperate football until the 72nd minute when Maguire rises above everyone and heads the ball into the net. 1-0. The crowd's roar feels different this time. Not sarcastic, not skeptical, but warm. Seconds before the final whistle, goalkeeper Andre Onana saves a penalty, sealing the win. Cameras cut to Maguire, who sinks to his knees, fists to the turf. It's more than a goal. It's a symbol. For the first time in years, the headlines carry his name without the word mistake beside it. Over the next month, the transformation becomes undeniable. Maguire starts regularly again, and United begin to stabilize. He wins duels, blocks shots, leads the line with a calm authority that reminds everyone why he was made captain in the first place. Fans who once booed him now chant his name again. Journalists who called him finished begin to use another word: redemption. In December, he's named Premier League Player of the Month, the first United defender to win the award since Nemanja Vidic in 2009. For Maguire, it's not about the trophy, it's about respect. Something that can't be bought, only rebuilt one performance at a time. When he thanks his teammates and fans, his tone is humble, grateful, almost emotional. The same crowd that mocked him now applauds. The same club that nearly sold him now leans on him again. Just when it seemed that Harry Maguire's story had turned, football reminded him how cruel it could be. The 2023-24 campaign that had begun with redemption ended in frustration. In the spring of 2024, a calf injury struck. Sudden, sharp, and perfectly timed to undo months of recovery. The same defender who had fought his way back from the bench and regained the crowd's respect was now sidelined at the worst possible moment. For most players, injury is a physical inconvenience. For Maguire, it felt like exile all over again. He watched from the stands as United stumbled through an uneven season. The defense, once reliant on his experience, lost structure. But in football, memory fades fast. Within weeks, headlines moved on. The same journalists who praised his comeback now debated whether his absence even mattered. Online, the mockery resurfaced. Jokes about his body failing him, memes suggesting his luck ran out. He ignored them. Recovery became his full-time job. While his teammates traveled and trained, Maguire spent long, quiet hours in the gym, rebuilding his strength one repetition at a time, the walls of Carrington echoing with the hum of machines and the sound of his own determination. He spoke rarely during that time. The interview stopped. The noise around his name died down, but those close to him said something had changed. He wasn't bitter anymore, just focused. The months of silence became a kind of purification, stripping away the outside voices until only his own belief remained. In June 2024, the final blow arrived. Gareth Southgate's Euro 2024 squad was announced, and for the first time in 7 years, Harry Maguire's name wasn't on it. The calf injury had ruled him out. England's most reliable tournament defender, the man who had starred in Russia, who had scored against Sweden, who had made the Euro 2020 team of the tournament, would watch the competition from home. For a player who had always turned criticism into performance, this was a wound that couldn't be healed on the pitch. But Maguire didn't rage or seek sympathy. When asked about it, he simply said, "I'll come back stronger." He spent the summer training in silence while England played without him. The cameras focused on others, the fans discussed new heroes, and Maguire, out of sight, began preparing for the next chapter. In football, silence can be a curse or a sanctuary. For Harry Maguire, it became both. He used that solitude to reset, to clear his head of every insult, every mistake replayed on screens, every doubt that had once defined him. By the time preseason arrived, Manchester United had a new head coach, Rúben Amorim, a fresh philosophy, a new shape, a clean page. And as the club adjusted to change yet again, Maguire walked into Carrington with a quiet smile. He wasn't the captain anymore. He wasn't even guaranteed a starting spot, but inside something unbreakable had settled. He had been through humiliation, ridicule, and rejection. Now he was ready to visa, not as the world's most expensive defender, not as a captain, but as a man reborn. And soon, the world would see that silence had only made him stronger. When Rúben Amorim walked into Old Trafford in the summer of 2024, Manchester United looked like a club in transition again, a familiar story for a team still trying to rediscover its identity. But beneath the surface of another reset was a quiet transformation waiting to happen. Amorim's arrival didn't just change the tactics, it changed the atmosphere. His 3-4-3 or 3-4-2-1 system demanded defenders who could think, build, and command. not just react. For the first time in years, that system seemed built for Harry Maguire. From the opening matches, something was different. Maguire looked freer, sharper, more confident. The back three shape suited him perfectly. Less isolation, more space to read the game, more freedom to step forward like the ball-playing center half he once was at Leicester. Amorim didn't promise him a starting role. He made him earn it. But within weeks, Maguire's performances spoke louder than words. Then comes Europe. The stage that builds legends or breaks them. The Europa League quarter-final, April 17th, 2025 against Lyon. First leg, disappointment. Second leg, chaos. United are 4-2 down on the night, seemingly out until Maguire decides that enough is enough. In extra time, as fatigue drains everyone, he charges into the box for one last corner. The cross swings in from the right, the timing perfect, the connection pure. His header rifles into the bottom corner, a 121st minute winner that seals a 7-6 aggregate comeback. The noise that follows is deafening. In that moment, Harry Maguire, the player once mocked, doubted, and dismissed, becomes the unlikely hero of Europe. After the match, Amorim doesn't hold back his praise. Harry is leadership, he says simply. He represents what we want. Resilience, belief, courage. Fans who once jeered him now chant his name. His teammates mob him in the dressing room. Social media, once the place of his ridicule, floods with respect. In the semi-final first leg at Bilbao, he delivers again. Not with goals this time, but with command. Playing in an advanced defensive role, he steps into midfield repeatedly, spreading passes, winning duels, playing with the confidence of a man who has rediscovered himself completely. One commentator calls him Harry Dinho, a lighthearted nod to his flair and fearlessness that night. Even rival fans start to admit it. The man they mocked for years has become a story of perseverance too powerful to ignore. The rest of the season feels like a reward, not perfect, but purposeful. United don't win every game, but they play with heart, and Maguire is central to it all. No longer the scapegoat, no longer the outsider, just a footballer, doing his job with quiet authority. In interviews, he speaks softly about what the journey has taught him. You can't control opinions, only your response. I just keep working. It's a simple sentence, but it carries the weight of everything he's endured. From jeers to cheers, from mockery to applause. By the end of that season, Harry Maguire has done more than rebuild his career. He's rewritten his story, and as United fans sing his name again, something that once felt impossible has happened. The man once seen as a burden has become a symbol of belief. The road of redemption is rarely straight, but for Harry Maguire, it was always leading here, to the moment where respect finally outweighs ridicule, and the world remembers that the most powerful comeback is the one nobody saw coming.